we are also at a point where we can change, where we can actually tackle the problems so that we don't have the problems in the end. And if we really go all in now, then it will work better than we all think.
Hello and welcome everyone to this on-location recording of the Auto Tech Show podcast. I'm your host, Marc Babin, and as always, thank you so much for being with me on this episode. Today we are coming to you from the IAA Transportation Trade Show in Hanover, Germany, so please excuse some of that background noise. Now on this episode, I'm excited to welcome Kim Johanna Kohlmeyer, Policy Manager for E-Mobility at Transport and Environment Germany, Europe's leading advocate for clean transport and energy. They pride themselves on helping to shape European environmental laws over the last 30 years and are a key contributor to the world-leading standard that the EU has when it comes to CO2 standards for both cars and trucks. Kim is the perfect guest to talk to today about using collaboration and partnerships to help build a sustainable transport ecosystem. Kim, I know we have quite a large topic here. It's quite broad and holistic, and I know you're very busy at a show like this, so first and foremost, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here and really excited for our talk.
Good. Yeah, I am well and doing a bunch of research beforehand. It's really interesting, some of the stuff you've implemented, so we'll get into that, and I'm excited to sort of get your insights on a lot of stuff. So let's jump straight in and look at some of the notable work that T&E has advocated here in Europe over the years. From your personal point of view, do any policies stand out when we look at promoting sustainable mobility in Europe that you guys have done?
Totally. I think what is really standing out is the CO2 standards that we now have for cars and trucks in Europe. That is like the most important thing ever. Because we do need a regulation somewhere to start the shift. And we see it with the OEMs here. They are pretty much all on board with it, and they want to push it, and they even always said, we want to be able to plan. We need the planning security. We want everyone to have the same standards. For us, it's actually good if there are standards. And so I'm really happy actually about how this works for the OEMs, truck OEMs I'm talking now. Car OEMs, obviously, they were a bit more, let's say, shy about the regulations, and also maybe not very impressed by them. And I mean, now we have the whole discussion about the regulations, but I still think it's really important to start there. But obviously now we also have AFIR, which is super important, especially for trucks, to be honest. For cars also, because you need the car charging infrastructure. But there we are a bit further along the way. With trucks, we start now having a scale up that will be so much faster than cars. It will be just like, I think, 1/10 or even less of what the cars have done. And there we need the AFIR to have the public charging infrastructure in place, and to not, people talk about the hen-egg problem. We don't, with the AFIR and the CO2 standards, we don't have a hen-egg problem actually for trucks, which actually takes away the planning unsecurity, let's say, or insecurity for the companies, especially the logistics companies, which is really important because especially the logistics companies obviously are a bit different than car owners. Car owners either like it or don't like it. That's the hard part about car owners. But logistics companies, they make money with it. Their TCO has to be low. You have to have the security that you can go out and charge your truck. And with AFIR we have that. So I would say those two regulations really pushed us forward in this transformation.
With those two in particular then, can you just give me a taste of some of the challenges that your team had when implementing this or approaching these policy changes? Because clearly there's going to be some resistance from somewhere at some point. Is that part of the main challenge that you faced?
Yes, obviously. I mean, I now talked about the truck, and I will now talk mostly about the truck CO2 standards because that is that was a bit of my file.
Absolutely.
And with the truck CO2 standards, I just praise the OEMs, and most of them are really on board with the CO2 standards.
Yeah.
Not all of them. So that is the challenge, because then you have some OEMs that just go behind the back and like try to lobby in a different way, and even go against their other OEMs, so to say. So that was obviously one of the bigger challenges. One other big challenge is actually that, especially in Germany, and that is what I'm responsible for, people really like the ICE, like the internal combustion engine, because we pride ourselves on inventing it and making it better and better.
Don't want to let it go.
And Germans have a problem with letting stuff go that they like, and also have a problem with looking into the future and saying, okay, this might have been a good thing for the moment, but now actually there is something new and there might be problems with it now, but if we tackle the problems now, we will make it. So what Germans always tell me is like, oh, we don't have the charging infrastructure yet. Oh, the trucks are not there yet. Oh, I don't know what. And I'm like, yes, that is why we have to tackle these problems, and then it will work. But the German way sometimes is to see problems and then not start. So that is kind of like
an ongoing challenge.
An ongoing challenge also with politicians, because obviously it's not a populistic topic, right? I mean, trucks are not anyways, and to get rid of the ICE motor, that is actually, or the ICE engine, which is a double, that is actually populist, because there you can again have all Germans behind you and say like, but this is what we invented.
Yeah, but it isn't the way of the future. Things have to shift to meet sustainable goals for every organization and for what you're pushing for as well.
Completely, and I also think, I actually think it in a different way. We always have been quite in the forefront of engineering and technological innovation. I know that the States are also quite in front of that, but we are also in Europe and especially in Germany. And I think it's weird that we are now like, oh, there's a new technology. We are engineers, which is more, obviously it's a bit different, but still it's also an engineering topic. We could also say, oh, we are like primed for doing this. It's like, this is exciting, there's something new, it's even more efficient, it's better for the world. The TCO will go down once we have it, because obviously the TCO is not there yet, which is because it's not scaled up yet. I don't understand everyone who is always like, oh yeah, the TCO is not there yet. Well, I'm like, actually for some use cases it is, for some it isn't.
But it's progressive.
Also we are like, I would say if we have like steps 1 to 10, we are like at 2 maybe. So. But
still, that's steps. Every step is a significant step forward.
Completely. And also, if we don't take the steps now, then we won't get to 10. That is what is really important to me, and that's why I repeat it.
It's interesting that you say what you mentioned there, because I had an episode with a gentleman from in New Orleans at a transport event, so from the American market, and he's from Fleet Advantage, he's Senior Vice President of Operations, and they actually flew over. They're here at the show as well. I asked him if it takes regulatory compliance to drive change in an industry that's maybe stuck in its old ways. And I found it really interesting, because he said, without asking for more regulations, you're 100% correct. And I find that quite interesting, because they don't want it, but they know they need it. And I think that's an interesting connection. So from someone who drives policy on your end, how do you balance that delicate relationship between needing regulation, but then not wanting to rock the boat too much?
So what I'm doing, that's why I'm here, that's why I speak here, is I really talk a lot to the industry, because I really want to be sure that we don't lose them. Like, it's always easy, and I know that it's always kind of easy to stand on the sideline a bit and say like, oh, you should do this better, and then not know what the actual challenges are. So what's really important to me is really talk to the industry, talk to also the logistics firms, also the different ones. I don't know if you know this, but in Germany, it's a very weird market, let's say. We have like 80% of the companies have like 10 trucks or less.
Really?
So it's a huge mass of companies that have like very little people and trucks, but also don't have a big margin, right? So like they have a very small margin, and obviously for them it's much scarier to change. But then obviously on the other hand, we have these huge companies that have like loads and loads and loads of trucks. So it's important to me to listen to all of them and to understand all their challenges, and to then think about the regulations like kind of catered to their needs, so that the whole market doesn't collapse, because that doesn't help anyone, right?
Makes a lot of sense, I think. And then that's great that you're here having those conversations, because that's what starts a lot of the talks, because that's where the ideas come from. And I think collaboratively, everyone knows what change has to happen, but you need that partnership between regulation, government, and the organizations to make change stick. Otherwise, it's forced and maybe it doesn't get. So it's obviously a topic that you have a passion for. It's the work you do, but just hearing you speak and knowing that you speak around this is obviously a topic that you have passion for. Looking at those successful partnerships and when they do happen and it's a great change, do you have examples of when that's really happened, when it's been just like the perfect combination of everyone going, yes, we need this is great, and it happens?
I'm just thinking about what I can say, because obviously sometimes partnerships are nice if they're like not in the forefront, and
sure.
Especially we also have partnerships that might not be like in the forefront and no one talks about them, but we still have them. So I'm trying to think about stuff. Maybe one thing that I can say that is not exactly what you were talking about, but a bit what I actually appreciate. So we have like the organizations that are there for the logistics firms and stuff, and obviously they are a bit more skeptical. I mean, I also do understand it a bit, because they get from kind of below from their members, they get a lot of fire, let's say, right? And with them, I actually get along quite well, and we really start talking, and I started talking at different events of theirs, and was able to get into the conversations with their members. And that conversation is the most important thing I think that I can do, because obviously the conversations were not that everyone was like, oh yeah, we completely agree with you and we will do whatever you say. They were very like a bit heated maybe at times, which I highly appreciate.
Which is okay, yeah.
Because it means they start thinking about it, they listen, and there's a change starting, because most of them were like, yes, we know we need to get to zero emissions, but we think there's another way. Where I'm like, okay, but then we can discuss the way, and I'm really happy about that, as long as we don't discuss anymore if we have to get away from diesel.
So I guess from you, for you then, it's really getting in on those conversations as early as possible, and getting to these issues as early as you possibly can, to make it that you're working together on something, just to break that mold of, we're not doing this to, well, we don't like it, but how can we find a way that it would work?
Yes, totally. That is like one thing that is really important to me, and I think it's especially in the German context, because now we have most of the regulations and now we need to put them in practice. So that is why I'm working a lot on this at the moment. But TNE actually has once been called the organization of the letters, because we often have open letters with the industry, for example. Like with the OEMs on the CO2 standards, etc. So that is something where also cooperation really makes a difference, because obviously when TNE goes to a politician, obviously we are super important and everyone listens to us.
Yes.
But sometimes it might help if you have the industry behind you.
Yeah.
And there we really search for like industry connections on topics where we actually agree, to then push this with that part of the industry. And then in other parts, again, we are not working with like the industry or with these industry players, because maybe they have another opinion. So that is mostly how we work, and that is a cooperation that works very well. What we also do sometimes is discuss with like our allies that sometimes it makes more sense that they, for example, call a politician or something, and not us, but that is mostly it's over letters.
So you found that sort of perfect recipe, that balance of, I guess you're always developing that recipe and how to have that relationship be as optimal as possible. What are some of the lessons that you've learned and that you're kind of wanting to, the gaps that you're still trying to close when it comes to finding that perfect recipe to having that relationship?
I just want to say, I wouldn't say we have the perfect recipe. Maybe
it seems pretty tight.
We try.
But obviously you're constantly trying to improve it.
I think what we really also need to think about now, because as in the US, with a bit of like lagging behind, Europe is also turning more conservative. And obviously conservative voices are often not super pro green change, let's say. So where I really think we have to work better on, or what I think we have to work better on, is making conservative voices understand what they can gain with our goals, so to say.
That's a good point.
Because there's so often, like, if you, for example, I'm also for charging in Germany. I'm responsible for everything charging in Germany.
Okay.
And there's bidirectional charging, right? And bidirectional charging is a win-win situation. It's like actually no one can be contra. You have to see how you actually then do it, but no one is against bidirectional charging. It's good for the grid, it's good for the OEMs, it's good for everyone, right? And having like topics like that, and make conservative voices understand that is actually an economic choice, it's an industry choice, it's not like some green idea. It also helps for the transformation, but it's more an industry choice, so to say. I think that is what we can get a bit
continue
better
to improve on. It makes a lot of sense, and I think when you go around an event like this, it must be reassuring that you're going around the right steps, because this wouldn't have looked this way 10 years ago. What companies are focusing on today, even the way they brand themselves, this whole movement behind, we're actually getting behind sustainability and making steps, that has to make you proud for the work that you've done over the years.
It's funny because the way you ask questions is very un-German, and I would not say that I'm proud of anything that happened here, because obviously I don't think that is...
Well, you should be proud, because it wouldn't have looked like this, so you should be proud.
Yeah, thank you.
I guess content. You should be content with it. I'll scale it back a bit.
What we do see that there's a backlash at the moment, so I'm actually more worried than proud sometimes.
Okay, interesting.
Because we do see a backlash with all, like, the not just the conservative voices, but also the right-wing voices starting to hate everything that is about transformation, even if it's the better technology. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's mostly...
It's not about the technology at that point.
It's not about anything. It's mostly about, like, oh, we see that there's some people we can get with it. So there I am a bit worried, like with the CO2 standards for cars. There starts to be like a bit of a weird discussion about, like, I mean, the OEMs saying like, oh yeah, we didn't know this comes.
Backpedaling a little bit.
And I'm like, you knew this comes. Like,
you just maybe ignored it for your purposes.
Yes. So there I'm more a bit worried, to be honest, being the German I am.
Yeah. But that's
I see the problems, I don't see the opportunities.
But is that sort of, I guess, the common barriers that you're seeing then? Is it a bit of this like backpedaling, and when you say you're worried about it, are this because of these barriers that you're seeing maybe come up more than you would like to?
So I think we all knew the backlash would come at some point. Still, it's obviously not a nice place to be in when it happens. I think it's a bit actually like in the States. I think even there we knew that like after Obama there will be
some change
because there will be a backlash, and still seeing it is horrific, to be honest. So being in it is uncomfortable, but what I see at the moment, like yes, I see this as the biggest problem, but I also see it as an opportunity, because most of the time humans start being content, and just like if there is a regulation, then they think, oh, now we don't have to do anything anymore. And it can also, as you see also in the States, sorry that I make all these references.
Oh, it's relevant market.
But as you also see in the States, there, like if there's a backlash, you also have a mobilization, which then helps again. So what I see, and I really don't want to say anything bad about our industry, not anything bad about, okay, that I need to. What I see is that we have so many players that really go and try and make experiences. And I mean, it is hard at the moment. I'm never saying it's not hard. Like getting grid connections, it's a real annoyance, let's say.
And it gets continually more difficult the more that has to change.
It gets more difficult, but it's already difficult. We have so many DSOs in Germany. They all have different needs. When you have like the technical guidelines, so to say, to get a grid connection. So you can't even have your standard. You have to really start every time. You have to start new. So it's like it's hard.
It's super complex.
So I really appreciate everyone that gets in there, gets all this annoyance just to try it out. But on the other hand, I also see people like starting to think about it, and I have like companies that tell me, I know that now I can't do it because I'm too small, I just can't, but I'm looking at it all the time and I recalculate, and the moment I can, I will get one electric truck, because I know that I have to make these experiences to be at the forefront when the change comes. So that actually is something that really kind of gives me hope, and that I
guess that's kind of a nice message then to sort of finish on, is it's okay to take small steps when you're ready, as long as you're thinking about making those steps.
So obviously we need big steps.
Yes, of course.
From and obviously the whole industry needs big steps. Especially small companies, I would say it's great if they do the small steps so that they can actually do the transformation. And what I always, and that is maybe really a thing to finish on, what I always want to say is we have the feeling now that the electrification of trucks has been like the choice forever.
Yeah.
4 years ago, we have still thought like, oh, does it actually really work with the electrification? And we have such, like even in the last 4 years, there has been such a change that I'm always, when people are like, oh, we don't even have public infrastructure yet, charging infrastructure yet, I'm like, yes, because like the opinion about if it works or not changed so much in the last few years that I think we are in the beginning, but we are also at a point where we can change, where we can actually tackle the problems so that we don't have the problems in the end. And if we really go all in now, then it will work better than we all think.
So we need to commit to that change.
We need to commit to the change, and we need to commit to taking steps to get out of the way the challenges now that we will have, like the challenges we will have later. So, and that is something humans don't like, but I think if we do that now, then it will get so much easier when we're like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years further. And people have asked me, so how will it look like in one year or
short term, yeah,
something? And I'm like, in 1 year probably, like we will have more trucks on the road, but it won't look very different. But then look at in 3 years, 5 years, it will be a completely different ball game. I think we will really be so much further, and it will look greater, and we will have less emissions and less stinky trucks
Highways,
in
the black smoke trucks, exactly. Well, we don't see as many of those as we used to, so we're definitely going along the right way. And I think you're right. We need to look at those bigger dates to see those significant changes and not be bogged down by maybe not seeing so much in the short term. Stay focused on the goals, stay committed to the change culturally within your organization, and see those bigger steps down the way. So I think that's a fantastic point. Kim, thank you so very much. This is super interesting. I really, really like this topic. It's something, it's so complex, and there's so many nuances and little rabbit holes you can go down. I've really enjoyed researching for it. So thank you so much for today, and thank you for all the work you're doing to drive this change.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
And for everyone watching and listening to this show, thank you so much for being with us. It's been a great episode. If you have any questions, maybe you want to learn a little bit more about what T&E is doing, what Kim's doing, head down to the podcast notes. You'll see links there. Get in touch. Let's start those conversations and ask the questions that we need to ask. I think that's a great thing to remember from today. So we'll leave everyone there on this episode. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day wherever in the world you may be. We'll see you on the next episode very soon. Bye for now.